Hey everybody, welcome to the PixelBlips podcast for December 16th. It's our Game of the Year show. Well, Games of the Year because we're not agreeing. But, this is a quick precursor, and then we'll let Dave get into his Game of the Year. This isn't what we consider the best Game of the Year, but this is the game you should definitely play this year.
It would be my favorite Game of the Year that I played.
Yeah.
Or the one that I looked...
You can have stuff that's like subjectively your favorite, but it's not the greatest.
No. And by no means, are any of our opinions particularly super valid to everybody else. But
oh no, they are.
No. I mean, we're not the end all be all of game gods. But so speaking of our favorite games of the year, I played The Walking Dead, the Telltale Walking Dead.
We
game.
both played The Walking
Dead. We both
Dead.
Played it. And I don't think either of us played it before we got it free on PSN, right?
No. I picked it up when I got it free.
Yeah, and that's the same thing with me. But why is it my favorite game of the year is because I wasn't an episodic game fan before. Like, I never played any of the Telltale games. I never played a lot of those, comes out.
I had.
Sam and Max type
I
stuff.
played a lot of those.
I never played a lot of those games. But once I tried it for free, it was just like, hey, I got hooked in. And then every, 2 months or so, they came out with a new episode.
Yeah.
Like 2 to 3 months. Like, I heard there was a big drought between 1 and 2. And then it was like two and a half months.
3, 4, and 5 seem to come out close to
the month and a half.
Yeah.
Month and a half, 2 months mark, something like that, yeah. The Walking Dead game is what got me into The Walking Dead, the TV show and the comic book and all that. I think I think
the game is better than having read the comics and having watched the show. I think the game is probably going to stand out as one of the best adaptations of that.
Yeah. It's like the Hitchhiker's Guide. Every version of that book is different. The story is a little bit different every time you view it. The game, whatever.
Yeah. I mean, but kind of like as per like the. This is supposedly chapter 1 of a series. So like maybe we're gonna have Walking Dead season 2 next time and stuff. But I think that as a whole, because the comic book I feel stumbles a lot in like serializing a lot of the stuff, and the TV show I feel stumbles a lot where it kind of gets off track and loses sight of what's really important, which is the human drama.
Yeah, it is.
And the game doesn't do any of that. The game
it's all about you and your group.
Yeah, all killer, no filler, and well.
Yeah, no, I get it.
All zombie killer, no zombie filler, and always has a very keen, focused insight on the human drama and the choices that you make and stuff like that.
Yeah, and I don't know, it's one of those games because the story in a game is really important a lot of times. Like sometimes, like in Diablo, it doesn't really matter what the story is because you could just sit there and just keep collecting loot, and that's really what I would think is the key to a good like action RPG. But a point-and-click adventure, kinda, is what this game is. I think it really has to rely on the story, and the voice acting is great, pretty much across the board. There's a couple of characters that's kind of whatever.
Yeah, the first couple episodes had you would be submerged great like voice tracks and stuff like this is awesome, and then some character would come along and
he would just be really flat, like
what?
the nerdy guy who I killed or let die in the second episode, or the first episode, whatever he was.
Fell flat.
Yeah,
Herschel in the first episode I fell flat.
Yeah, Herschel wasn't all that great.
And the one that sticks out like a sore thumb is the lady that you rescue at the motor lodge that's been bitten and wants you to kill her.
Oh yeah.
That's like such a powerful moment in their story,
but
that
the
voice actress just can't
not that
do
great.
It.
Yeah, I can't remember her name. I don't even know if they said her name.
I don't think they did
because she dies. No matter what you do, she dies.
But by the time the writing kicks in and finds its footing in the third episode, and then the voice work quickly follows.
Yeah, it does.
And by the time you get to the 5th episode, it's all aces across the board.
Yeah, it is.
Except for one thing, which we'll get into a bit. Which is why it's not my game of the year. But go ahead, keep going.
You made me lose my train of thought.
There's a train in Walking Dead.
There is a big train in The Walking Dead, and that's one of the things that I didn't particularly like about it was it didn't. I mean, your choices mattered sort of, but they don't. Like you always wind up in that hotel room with that guy who's got Clementine in a closet or in the bathroom. It's spoilers, by the way, in case you haven't watched the rest of our Walking Dead stuff.
So, but there's kind of, that's a game design issue.
That is.
There needs to be. Well, I like to consider it. There's a couple different ways you can design things. There's like the Infinity Ward Call of Duty, where it's a hallway.
Well, yeah.
There's the Grand Theft Auto. It's an open city, or there's this mid-realm, which I like to call the busy street.
Yeah.
And Walking Dead fits on that. It's a busy street. There's a lot of stuff to do on the street. You know, you can walk on different sides of the sidewalk, but at the end of the day, you're still going from point A to point B.
Yeah.
So
there's a lot of things in that you can, you know, change the path, but you always wind up in the same place.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, it was The Walking Dead was probably the one game that I looked forward to every couple of months. Hey, there's a new Walking Dead coming out next week. I'm gonna drop my $5 on it, and I wish I had spent, you know, the 25 or the 30 on it to buy it, you know, outright when it first came out.
I would actually, I'm kind of thinking about going and buying that retail version.
The one that comes with the collector's edition with the comic book?
And the nice box.
Yeah. I'd say I thought about that, but I was like, no, I'm going to get the comic books.
Well, yeah, but the other thing is like...
Now you're supporting Telltale.
And I kind of want to think of like, when you think of like the really great games that come out, like, this is a game I'm going to want to come play down the road.
Yeah.
And is my PlayStation 3 still going to be there for me to play it? Like, will I be able to re-download these episodes? Well, some of the digital rights management stuff.
Yeah,
but
there's some silly DRM stuff.
I mean, that's neither here nor there, and that's future talking. You know,
that's a couple of years later. You know,
kind of like how many copies of Chrono Trigger do I own? Just because I don't know at what point in the day will it grip me? Like, I want to play.
Some Chrono Trigger. I'm gonna play it on my Vita. I'm gonna play it on like Game Boy Advance or whatever.
So I mean, that's
you
know,
I don't think I've ever had as much fun playing a point-and-click adventure, and it's one of those things where I know it's not going to be a really long game. Like, you know, like if you sat down and played it,
every episode is probably
every episode is a good 2 to 3 hours, except for the last one. It's kind of short; it's like an hour. But if you were to sit down and play all of them at once, that's a day. Yeah. That is so one 12-hour day that you can kill.
If you put them all together, it's longer than your average Call of Duty single-player campaign.
Yeah, it is. But it's also cheaper because, I mean, we paid $15 for it because we got the first 2 for free. But I think like it's the actual $40 total, right?
Yeah, if you bought every episode when it came out, it would be $15, $30. Because the first episode is $10.
And then it was $5 for every other one. So yeah,
every exception.
So I mean, I've had a lot of fun playing The Walking Dead. I think you should go play The Walking Dead if you haven't played it. You're crazy. If you're a PlayStation Plus subscriber, why didn't you get it when it was free a couple of months ago?
Why you do what we say?
Why you buy games?
When they were making Jurassic Park, in an interview, someone asked them, because Heavy Rain had just come out, and they were like, well, we want to make a game, seeing how Heavy Rain evolved that adventure, point-and-click adventure genre, we want to make a game like Heavy Rain.
Yeah.
And I think The Walking Dead is as close to a game
like
Heavy Rain out right now.
Yeah.
And since Heavy Rain was a great game that a lot of people overlooked because it was very weird.
It was weird, but I enjoyed Heavy Rain when I played it. It did have, and it had that one thing. It did have the divergent storyline, and it did end different ways no matter what you did.
Yes.
No 2 playthroughs were exactly the same unless you made it that way.
Yeah, but it was also a $60 game.
It was a full retail game.
Yeah, so we can't really compare that to a $30 game.
But it was, I mean, Telltale makes some pretty good games, right?
Yeah. So I haven't played Jurassic Park yet. I've heard that's the weakest, but every other game of theirs I've played.
Well, good.
And I like them, especially since with Sam & Max and the Monkey Island game. Yeah. They did a great job of like infusing it with that Tim Schafer humor spirit.
Oh, yeah.
So even though he didn't work on that game, it felt like it was a game he worked on. And Ron Gilbert, who did Day of the Tentacle and Maniac Mansion and Curse of Monkey Island. Excuse me.
All these other games.
Yes, all these other point-and-click adventure games that fell out of vogue
long ago.
Like mid-90s on, and now it's refreshing, I think, to get a new version of that.
Yeah.
And a version of it that holds up so well as Walking Dead does as over a short playtime, and Heavy Rain does over a very long playtime.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think Walking Dead is great. The only reason it's not my game of the year is it went up against some stringent competition, and it just so happened that the competition was a better put together game. There are glitches and weird things that go on in The Walking Dead.
Yeah, there are.
I remember getting hung up on scenery. So Walking Dead did not come together as well as it should have.
Yeah, there was a couple of times when I had
to reset the game twice.
Yeah, I had
different episodes, so not twice in one episode, but
yeah,
and then 2 episodes I got to a spot where I was supposed to be able to move on, and they did like. I remember at one point they did a whole scene of me opening a door and being able to walk through it, and then when I loaded back up, the door wasn't open and I couldn't go through it.
Yeah.
And it was just like, okay. But Telltale's a smaller studio and you kind of...
Yeah, you can't expect it always to be perfect. I remember having an issue where I was on the train and I had just got done talking to the bum and Kenny, and I was headed back to go talk to the kid, and the camera just panned off. And that was it. I couldn't see where I was going. There was nothing there.
Yeah.
Like it just kept going off into the background, and it was weird.
In the second episode, I fell through the geometry of the world, which is always like
those are always fun deaths.
It's a nice earmark where because you can't. There's no damage system in Walking Dead.
So you just keep falling.
So literally, I just kept falling. Like it was just like, oh, okay, and it's a great little like. That's a great way for you not to become Game of the Year.
Yeah.
It's like I just write that down. Like this is something that Q&A should have picked up on.
Yeah.
And I understand that making a game is hard, but...
And sometimes stuff slips through the cracks, and maybe it was just something that happened. Maybe it was a data corruption in the
So, I mean, a good example is, like, last year, my Game of the Year was not Skyrim, because it had so many issues when I played it. Even though it was a wonderful game, comparing it to my other favorite game from last year, Resistance 3 won out because I never fell through the geometry.
Yeah, you never had any technical issues. Yeah. Technical issues are a really good way to make you not want to play a game.
But Walking Dead, in honor of it, did a wonderful job of, in spite of those early issues, despite that one early issue, and then the issue that came on later.
And then the piece and save problems.
Yeah, and I kept wanting to play it. Like, I was like, okay, like, it's still good. I still want to keep playing it.
Yeah.
I still want to give it the benefit of the doubt.
Yeah.
It would definitely have ended up in my top 5 games.
I mean, I mean...
And high on that list. So.
Yeah. Well, I made a list of, like, all the games I played, and I think there's, like, 10 of them total.
I was amazed at how many of the games I loved this year. And this is we'll talk about this next episode, but this was the year of the downloadable title.
It was. A lot of, and not even so much the exclusively downloadable titles. Like,
even you just downloaded it anyway.
Yeah, because it was, on the PSN or on the
and
XBLA.
I think, we'll talk about that in a later episode, but both of our picks for Game of the Year are downloadable titles. So my pick for Game of the Year, should shock no one, is Journey.
No, it doesn't shock me at all.
Well, yes. Journey is once again a wonderfully put together game, a wonderfully artistic game, a wonderfully made game, and a wonderful game in and of itself.
Yeah.
And then it has all these wonderful bits wrapped around a core that is a emotional, transcendent experience.
It's a very simple game, right? Because you're always moving forward.
It's a lot like, we've talked about it before, I call it the Mario syndrome. You hand someone a controller and then...
They instantly know what to do with it.
The game teaches them how to play it, and not through a tutorial, but just how the game works.
Yeah.
So like in Mario, you run to the right because you can't go left. The screen doesn't scroll to the left.
No, it doesn't.
So you jump to hit blocks because there are blocks up there, and you think you can jump them, and there's stuff to jump over.
Yeah.
In Journey, you start, literally, you come out of the sin, and the camera pans around, and when the camera pans around and the title comes up and everything, and you're standing on top of this dune, it shows you the mountain in the distance, which is like the only thing you can see. Everything else is like shrouded in fog.
So that must be where I go.
Like that is where I go. And then the minute you push forward, you push towards that mountain, you slide down the dune, which teaches you this...
Ski down the mountain.
Yeah, which teaches you the surfing mechanic. You get down to the bottom of the mountain, you see the drapery things flying above you, and it teaches you how to jump. And then that's it. That's all you need to know, and everything else is telegraphed for you.
Jump and move, jump and move.
Like jump towards that thing, and then eventually it gets there. And it getting there makes an already brilliant gameplay mechanic story-centric and wonderful.
Yeah.
And the music from it is probably the best video game music I've heard in years.
Yeah, and I've only played like an hour of it, so I can't really speak.
And it's really only a 3 to 4 hour game. I played it through earlier this week again, and I got done with it in 2 hours.
Yeah, because if you know how to get through the levels and stuff. Did you get all the collectibles and get the white scarf?
No, I haven't gotten the white scarf yet.
Aww.
But that's the thing. It's like a good example is how multiplayer is handled. And basically, when you play Journey, you're online. And other people playing Journey, other travelers...
They'll join with you.
Yeah, we'll just kind of ghost in and out of your world, and if the two of you happen to pair up naturally,
Yeah, if you come across each other, you'll run around for a little while.
If you're in the same proximity and on the whole time, you will take the entire journey with this person. So the first time I played Journey, after you get out of the sandy stuff and the dunes and you start climbing the mountain, different stuff happens. I met this person, and we ended up going through the whole journey, and they had a special scarf that signifies...
That you did a large portion of the journey.
Their scarf signified they'd already done it.
Okay.
So they had kind of helped me through, so then this past week when I played Journey, I had that special scarf. I helped someone through.
Oh, okay. And then you can also, like, if somebody's... It seems like they're lost, right? You can kind of peep at them, and then they'll follow you around.
Your communication is limited to literally, like, musical notes.
Yeah, your dude will just make, like, a little...
chirp.
Like a chirp or a peep sound.
And a little rune will come out.
Yeah.
So you know where he is.
There's absolutely, other than the title screen, there's no language at all, right? Like, so if you didn't speak English at all, if you didn't speak Cantonese, whatever, you don't need to know a written language in order to play this game. There's no instructions, there's nothing. Like, the storytelling is all through, like, mosaics and stuff.
Yeah, the mosaics that come up are all pictographs, so it's all very emotional. And drawing not on a language base or a learning base is just drawing on a storytelling base.
It uses a natural learning process to teach you how to play the game, to teach you how to do the game, and to tell you the story.
What's going on and how this is happening.
And then that's a really interesting mechanic for the game.
Yeah, and then the multiplayer aspect comes into it is later in the game you find out that when something bad happens, when your character sustains damage, if you get next to another character, you guys can kind of huddle together and heal one another. So it builds this team play mechanic into the latter part of the game that right before the climax becomes so important. And literally, one of the reasons, you know, I tell the anecdote, the first time I played this, I started crying and didn't know why. The climax of the game, leading up to the climax, this healing each other mechanic becomes so important and eventually futile. Eventually, like, because of the story progression, how the game progresses, eventually you're going to be on your own.
Yeah, so with it being that integral to the game, can you do it by yourself? Like if you were on a PS3 that was not hooked up to the internet?
You can totally do it by yourself.
So it's not required that you have somebody stand there and heal you back up?
No.
Okay. I just want to make sure that that's
they make, like, the gameplay, the game is so well made that this whole area, this whole multiplayer area doesn't need to be accessed.
Okay.
And you can play it by yourself.
That's cool.
But part of the reasons, the emotional impact is eventually you are going to be alone.
Yeah, well.
And when that happens in the game, it's shocking. And it's not shocking in such a way that, you know, randomly something falls on them and they're dead and they're gone and you're on your own now. It's shocking in a way that you don't realize how much of a relationship you've built up with a person that you have in no way communicated.
You don't even know what their gamer tag is, or
not until the end of the game.
PSN.
At the end of the game, it tells you
everybody you've played with.
Yeah,
and that's cool. And sometimes you may not even notice. You know, first guy's gone, and you get another guy. It just kind of phased in a new player who was in that spot.
The one guy went away, and early in the game, you can see people moving in the distance and stuff, and to trying to get to them. And sometimes by the time you've gotten to them, they've moved on and stuff like that. But the game does a good job of always not pushing you forward in a kind of checkpointy way, but always just kind of bringing you forward and making sure you're moving. You're moving towards the goal.
Yeah.
And then the climax is transcendent. The game manages not to flip itself on its head in a way where, like, the final boss fight doesn't make sense or it introduces new mechanics or anything. The gameplay manages to evolve into a new game mechanic area, which the problem with Journey is you can't really talk about it in specifics because you ruin
the story,
But when it does that, when it moves into this new area, it's so freeing and it's so wonderful. And there's you have an emotional response, and you immediately are like, "This is amazing! This is great! Wonderful! I love this!"
Yeah.
And then Journey does a wonderful job of, through its story and what it's shown you, and then the gameplay and everything, imparting a message. And that message is going to be different for everybody, but like I took it as life is the journey.
Yeah.
And getting to the end of it is the reward, but the real reward is going back and doing it again and being able to continue continue moving forward. And that was one of the things that just brought tears to my eyes. It was just amazing. And I've not felt an emotional impact like that in a game in a very long time. and especially in a game with no text, no speech.
Yeah, there's no written story.
I mean, we were talking about The Walking Dead, and the important thing in The Walking Dead is the character interaction.
Yeah.
And that's where you get the emotional core. There's no character interaction per se.
Other than just your character jumping and peeping at the other guy.
Yes.
Yeah.
But it's through the gameplay and how you guys work together, and then eventually how you work alone, and then the game itself, and that's the transcendent part of it.
Yeah. Well, that sounds like I mean, I know I've said it a couple of times. I know I'm gonna buy that game. I'm gonna buy that game. I probably am going to buy that game eventually. I may do it this week just because I don't have anything new to play right now.
Yeah.
So.
But like, it's been interesting as we get towards this is now the end of the year and the Game of the Year season, to see different outlets pick their Game of the Year.
Yeah.
And realize that like the critics, the people that play these games for a living, have one opinion, and then the people that like the voting public have a totally different opinion.
Well, yeah, but I mean the critics, and this is just me, you know, spouting, but I'd say the critics probably look at it from a more objective thing. They don't have their personal opinions weigh in a little bit, but
yeah, but like the people that said Halo 4 was the best game for the Xbox, like, okay.
That might be true. That might technically be the best game. I've not played it. I've seen some screens and some videos of it, and it looks really good. But I would rather to play it by my controller in my hands.
I mean, I've seen people talk about how Assassin's Creed 3 is the greatest game this year, and it's not.
It's a really good game.
Really good, but not. Like
no.
There are other, and that's when we talk about the year of the downloadable game.
Yeah, and there's a lot of titles you can get this year,
like
exclusively.
Unfinished Swan.
Yeah.
Dyad was one that's very high on my list. That just because it's Dyad, it's probably in my top 5. Dyad I would probably outrank Walking Dead because there is a moment in Dyad where I'm a lot like Tetris, where you just stop thinking about that you're playing the game,
you just know
doing it.
You're just going,
and that's not even, that moment's not even in Journey.
Yeah.
But that moment in Dyad is important enough that like we should celebrate that in our medium. And the people that say PixelBlips 2 is the game of the year is okay.
I mean, when you think about
sales, we're not talking about
we're not talking sales,
but
about
popularity.
A lot more people have played PixelBlips 2 than have played Dyad. So even if all the Dyad people came out, it would only take 5% of the PixelBlips people to outvote it.
But I think when we talk about Game of the Year, and this came up last time we were talking about the VGAs, and how Walking Dead won Game of the Year, but not best PS3, Xbox, or PC.
Yeah.
When we talk about Game of the Year, I think that we should have a further view and say that like this is the game that people will want to play 10 years down the road.
Or 5 or 10 years down.
And it's not just popularity. The hidden gems are like have stuff in them that need to be celebrated.
They do.
Now, the flip side is like popularity can be fine.
Yeah, I mean,
popular games can be good. The Walking Dead is very popular,
and it's very good. I can't tell you that the other Walking Dead games are going to be good, but
Call of Duty Modern Warfare, the first one, very popular, very good, had stuff in it that should be celebrated.
Yeah. The new ones, they're hallway shooters.
Yeah. Well,
I mean, that's what I've gathered from a lot of them is they're generic war shooters, lots of explosions, lots of America, hell yeah type stuff. But
so our final thought for the Game of the Year 2012. Dave hasn't played both of them.
No,
I have.
I played an hour of the Journey, maybe.
I would say if you were only to buy one of them, buy Journey.
It's $15.
Dave would say if you're only to buy one of them, buy Walking Dead.
See, here's the deal with mine.
We're both here to say buy both of them.
Buy both of them, but mine you can get on 3 platforms. 4.
Yes.
4. You can get it on iOS as well.
I think that's the only reason Journey's being held back from Game of the Year.
Because it was a Sony exclusive.
Yeah, because not everyone played it.
Well, and not, when you've got two major consoles and, the PC and and iOS devices, which are gaining a lot of ground, like tablets and phones are gaining a ton of ground in the gaming markets now. You can't, I think the time for exclusives is maybe coming to an end. I think, there are some titles that can go exclusive, but stuff like The Journey should probably, had Sony not had such a heavy hand in developing it, I would like to have seen that on the 360 or the PC. You know.
Well, and the flip side of that equation is I think had Sony not had a heavy hand,
it probably wouldn't have shown up at all.
That would have never gotten made.
Yeah, it never would have gotten made. But
because the Journey, not the Journey, Journey was announced years ago.
Yeah, and it was part of a three game thing that they helped develop.
And basically Sony, like if you read articles about the development of Journey, Sony kept throwing money at them when the team wanted to walk away from the project.
Yeah.
It wasn't working how they wanted it to work, and they wanted to leave, and Sony said, no, here is...
Sony nurtured this to make it
come
come
out. Here is $7,000, like whatever you need, like we believe in this.
Yeah, here's a fat chunk of cash, please make this game some more.
So and I think exclusives have that...
They have that allure, but...
that time. Like, PlayStation All-Stars Battle Royale is not that type of game, but there are games out there. Heavy Rain would not have gotten made without Sony. I'm trying to think of a Microsoft one, but I can't.
Halo would not have gotten made without Microsoft. It would have not gotten past the first game without Microsoft.
Yeah, Halo 4 definitely wouldn't have gotten made without Microsoft. If Bungie had kept rights to that, there would not have been a Halo 4.
There wouldn't have been another Halo game because they got sick of it, and now they're working on, I think it's Discovery or
Destiny.
Destiny, yeah.
And I think a lot of people take it for granted in the Nintendo world, because if it weren't for Nintendo,
we really wouldn't have a lot of the games we have now.
No one would be making a Super Mario right now. No one would be making a Mario Kart or a Smash Brothers.
Or a Zelda.
Or a
Metroid or a Kid Icarus.
All of those franchises went through a time where if Nintendo was not the only guy paying for those games, third-party publishers would have said, so long.
Yeah. I mean, I'm just saying, like, I would have liked to have seen Journey on other things. And you know, I understand that
Journey's powerful enough; it needs to be on other things. But I'm glad it's on anything.
Yeah, the fact that it exists at all is a good thing.
Yeah.
So,
once again, buy them both. Don't forget to spay and neuter your Pokemon.